I know I get caught when someone asks me, how are you? And as I just said, what definition do you want? Like, because I've got things that I'm challenging with, but they're also
Oh,
progressing and they're winning.
yeah.
And I've got, probably finance things that I could be working on, but I know what to do. Uh, and there's all sorts of stuff. It's
Yeah.
the definition, right? What definition of that do you want? And
Mm.
I find that really fascinating. And I was saying, especially after doing Williams' work, that's the natural success curriculum that I know you've done.
Mm.
And after doing that, I find it even harder to answer that question because I used to have trouble with it anyway. Like, how am like, I don't know. And now I was like, which I don't know what version you want. And it was reminding me that
That's
yeah,
right.
he's some of the experts now. I can't remember his name, but I've heard him talking about asking better questions. A lot of the communication experts tell you don't ask people how they are. So, what's something exciting you're working on at the moment, or what's a goal you've got that's coming up? That's such much better questions for cutting through that.
Yeah.
Just how are you? Which is a really how are you is a fascinating topic, I think. So
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
that's
What's happening?
the
What are you up to? Because it triggers something. It causes a bit of tension. And because for a lot of
yes,
people, it's like it could be just a very organized kind of a response, like, yeah, I'm good, I'm okay,
yep,
or yeah, we could really talk about it till the cows come home. But yeah, it's very what's that word? It reveals a lot about our communication when people ask. Yeah, it's a
yeah,
big component of our lives. When we see someone, we just ask out of concern or just care or whatever it is. It's a big part of our daily living, and our responses and how we get information, correlate, and there's a lot going on. That's with communication, and
yep,
we don't really look at it. And we were talking about that previously in when someone asks you, you know, what do you do? Do I
yeah,
lie? What's really going on? So yeah, it's
yeah.
complex, and then yeah, not complex at the
See,
same time.
I noticed that as soon as you asked me, it was, ask you how you're going. And I had a whole story I could tell you, but it's a pretty big story. It's kind of, and it's like, that's the same thing. Which part of that do you want? Because I'm working on projects and I've come into this today distracted. I think you were a little bit too. We're
Yeah,
coming to settle on this. And so when you ask, how are you? I've still got all that baggage. It's something I was just working on. I've just put it down, right, to come in and prepare to be here with you. And yeah, but it's the word how I think gets me. How are you? And it's like, well, I'm flustered. Right?
yeah.
but
How long you
but but
got?
yeah, but I'm flustered. And if you want to know why, here's the story. But if you don't know, like, and it's kind of it's a thing about how you care, but it's also I'm right in the process of switching that off to present this, to come into this podcast and be ready to serve you. Really interesting question, especially on at that moment. It's probably what really got me, because it was like, how are you? And it's like, right now I'm fine because I just chose to be, right. And that's
Yeah,
part of you wants to tell the story because they asked, and that's what I get really caught. What part of that story do you want to know?
storytelling.
You know, um,
Interesting storytelling.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
the stories telling
Bahar,
all the
welcome.
time. Oracles. We're all oracles. We
Tell me
just
about
don't
it.
know it. In the density of everything, where I guess a part of our true nature wants to get back our power. But that's a lot about awareness. Like I said, it's a big kaleidoscope of so much communication and being a storyteller. And we forget that that's a very great inherent component of who we are, like being storytellers. And what magnificent artwork that is and craftsmanship that is, through storytelling. We read books, we listen, and even nature tells a story. If we watch nature, there's a story going on, and we are so divorced from that aspect of ourselves, because we just get into the system, which is like a rational kind of playground. And we can get lost in it. We can get really, really separate from everything. And so, it's relating and relation and responses. And what people may say, consciousness, awareness, and how do we bring that, or what do we do to bring that more into our lives? And because we're human, here we are, we've set aside this time, you and I connected in some form, and here we are present to this moment, talking and communicating, which is such a great aspect of healing as well. Yeah, even through reading something, if you write something, read something or content, or someone says something, it's where it's coming from can have such a huge impact, and possibly and truthfully changes a lot of people's lives. Just these little interactions, even what's going on now, what people are going to view, what people are going to hear, or what it's going to entice in someone. So there's a level of intimacy in just being and communicating and talking is huge. And it's something that I get to do with kids when I work with kids and everybody really. So let's just talk.
Yeah.
It's talk time. Put it out there, talk, have a cup.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So you said some wonderful things there. One of the things I picked up very early, and when you were speaking, you mentioned about connecting with nature, and you mentioned you mentioned the word rationality, about we tend to be very rational about things in that context of being with nature, and then you've brought that into the idea of storytelling and communication. Which I'm making that connection because I talk about the natural cycles of things and being into connection with the natural ebbs and flows of the world, and it's what I call it, the natural unfolding of the universe is something that continues. You've made a connection to storytelling and communication there that I've never really thought about before. How does that? How do you think the art of human connection and communication fits into that idea of the natural world and its unfolding and the human's desire to rationalize things?
But language, we need it. We're in life. It's conveying. It's where you're coming from. I guess the whole idea will be throughout all time and space, is ages, is a sage oracle of know thyself, man, know thyself, which we can just read. But what is that? What? How does it change and transform our life? Is knowing thyself. A lot of people don't want to know themselves. It's very confrontational because we have this construct of ego that we built. Everybody's got one. And it's like, wow, it's interesting is to know that the sides or the aspects or the archetypes and everything that's swimming in our consciousness, and it's just, it's the great works. It's a body of works, and we've got this reality, but there's other things going on. So and
Yeah.
we're living in this global world where we're more connected now, and we've got influencers, and we've got people talking, and we've got, it's just bombarded. Like media is it's just swarming like this ocean of communication of different species, and
Yeah.
it's just to, okay, yes, the rational mind serves as logic, and we need that to function to a degree, but it's like, what about all these other aspects that are dormant within us? If we don't make those connections, they're never going to be sparked. It's not going to go expansive. And, it's like, am I going to be living in a dreamscape of my imagination, or I'm just going to go with just, get up, brush my teeth and just go to work, and it's kind of mundane. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that. It's like, what would you love for yourself? And for a lot of people, that is just a very excruciating admission to just sit there and go, what would I love? And I have this when I have conversations with a lot of people. For an example, single people. It's like, because relationships are out there. It's about intimacy and being with someone. And a lot of people, it's like, oh, well, I'm busy, or there's something, or there's all the good ones are taken, or relationships are hard. So all these, it's like I said, it's a revelation. People reveal things through speech, through communication, and then you're able to pick things and go, okay, well, this is a system of beliefs that logic rational of how you see things or how you perceive things, and what your experience is of why you can't have what you love, or you know there's a lot going on, and people just need to stop and go, okay, let's talk about that. That's why we have coaches, mentors, and fucking therapists and psychiatrists, things like
See, you've touched on two different aspects of storytelling, as far as I can tell now, because we started out talking about how communication is a process of telling stories, and I was taking that from what a wonderful process. We get to tell stories. We get to tell stories of myth and human history and success, and now you're putting the spin on it, where there's an aspect of us where we're telling stories and they're bullshit as well, right? There's these two aspects of stories, right? There's the beautiful, wonderful. Sorry, you mentioned a few words. One of those was like otherworldly stuff. You mentioned archetypes, the dream world, and as well. And we just said there's this whole other world we can live in besides just that. Is something you said. So I'm really fascinated here that you're touching on. We seem to be talking about storytelling's our theme today at this point, but that I found that really interesting. That now we've got those two different sides of that coin that you've brought up. So there's where I'm repeating myself. We came in talking about stories as that such a wonderful idea of storytelling, and there's the idea of telling stories that are stories we made up, and they're pretty much a load of crap and structures that we live by, right? So
yeah, you get just to hear, but that happens through dialogue. Happens to hear people's beliefs, or what they have about themselves, beliefs around themselves, others, and the world, and what's going on, how they feel, what do they think about that. But it's asking that next question is, why is that? It's like, it's peeling. You start peeling things, and people start to spill. So I wait for that. I think it's great to be able to spill things, because that structure of having a space where we can just spill things out. It's like a book. It reveals it, and you're able to look at things if you give it that time and space to show up and be and listen, and you can, not only you but the person that's speaking can also have that experience of going, oh shit, that's what I do.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's obviously an aspect of revelation in that. The self-explorer, you mentioned knowing thyself. There's obviously an aspect of self-exploration in that unfolding and peeling back the layers. What about the idea that talking about things too much and ruminating on them as well? Because that's something I've found myself. Something I've had to learn is often to stop telling those stories as well, because they're just reinforcing them. How do you reconcile those two things?
Yeah. Well, there's that. There's two. There's, we speak about two orientations. If we really just bring it,
Yeah,
there really is that. It's just keeping it simple. But humans would like to overcomplicate things, because that's what the mind does. The ego does that. It grabs onto something and goes smite, and then it divides that, and that's it. Just splits and splits, and then that story can become. I work in mental health, and you can see that. You can see how much dysfunction that brings, and how emotionally crippling that can be if we do not have awareness of the tools and how to utilize them on a daily basis. beginning with breath, and because there's always two things at play. You're in a battle. You just got to acknowledge that and be aware of that and be accountable for that and have responsibility of this unit here that we call me, I, or we all have different ways we can express what our life's about. It's just like, what's going on? Where am I coming from? But who asks those questions, really? You just go out with friends, you can get pissed, you can find ways to resolve things. Like I said, it can be quite complex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I spent a lot of my life already with that concept of knowing thyself was important,
Mm.
and used to even get feedback from people that I was rather self-aware, but I was very self-aware of a lot of how do you say this? Very self-aware of my neuroses, I guess. I function this way, I work this way. It was a long time before I started to realize that was rather quite constricting,
Mm.
right? Because it was the more self-awareness I got, it's exactly like you're talking about. The ego is trying to figure it out. There's more a level of, because you asked before, asking people what would they love for their life, and it's I spent a lot of time trying to know myself. I work this way, I'll work this way under pressure. When people do this, this is how I respond, this is how I act, and trying to find a world where that particular mold would fit, right? And never finding it, right? And it's sort of getting to learn. And so it's interesting that we come to this other space that I think you understand very well, that other exploratory. I wonder if you can explain it to somebody who's maybe not so initiated into this, might be hearing this sort of stuff for the first time. Because it seems to me there's a bit of an interesting, almost like a curtain you need to walk through to start really understanding, be able to answer those questions. What do I really love? Who am I? What do I really know about myself? Rather than an analytical, egoic exploration and pulling it apart, sort of mechanical approach to it.
Exactly. Because we have that. It's having, I guess it's just that one. It just takes that one curiosity or one, because you can't assist or you can't be for yourself or another person. And it's that initial of you, it's that word. It's like it's got to come out of the mouth, because it's oracle in nature. We're oracle in nature. Yeah, and that's the way we learn. It's communication, and whether it's sometimes it doesn't even involve speaking, because there's components to everything. And it's like, okay, by your own admission, you could have the person to say, I need help. It's like an alcoholic or an addict or any person that is addicted to a system of beliefs, egoic beliefs, is saying, well, I don't want this for myself anymore. That's the gateway, is just going, I'm over this. People don't say that. I'm not over. Can't say that. Just hold on. It's holding on. It's like, can't hold on. A bird has wings. We're like birds. We've got wings, yes, but we've got to spread those wings. It's opening and closing. It's like breath. You've got to bring people back to the nature of their nature, because we're removed from that. Society, and especially Western society, is created on materialism and being so far removed from yourself that you're just in this spell of what's next, what are our success and this, and what do I have to wear? How do I look? How do I appear? And how do other people see me? And it's just layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. And it, just like
Yeah.
I said, it gets blown out. And then you're just like confused. We just see this all around us in this world. It's just too much of anything, but rather just coming in and just sitting down and going, okay, what the fuck is going on? Asking those questions, like, what's going on in my life? Where am I in relation to what I love, what I crave for? What is that? And people don't do it. They don't ask themselves those questions. You have to. You have to, you know.
So how again, for somebody that's listening to this for the first time, how would you advise those to start going? You know, because I think you can see some people out there who are saying, "I'm over this," but they're constantly in that space of "I'm over this shit." You kind of a kind of approach to it, and people are at that other place where I'm over this. It's time for a change. Something's got to give. But
Yeah,
getting to that space of, because there's also there's so much advice out in the world. There's mindfulness meditation. There's all sorts of other meditations. Things some people say exercise made all the difference for them. There's everybody's got a story about what it was for them that was their success. You go onto something like YouTube and everybody's got got their formula and their idea about what it is you need to do. You need to build this, and you've got to put your family first, or you've got to get over all these things. But that's, where do you start? That's the
yeah.
question. Where do you
It's
where
always
do you start?
something outside. It's always outside of us. Well, then we just go, okay, because it's change. It requires change, and transformation requires for you to be present. And how do we do that? And what do we do to bring ourselves to that? And then what? Because it just doesn't. People just want a quick fix, but they're fixated on trying to fix. It's where
Yep.
it's that whole thing. It's like where you're coming from. If you don't know where you're coming from, you're never going to know where you're going to. And it's bringing your consciousness and bringing the set of beliefs, or bringing, well, what is it that is hindering? What is the force that is disabling you from having that freedom, or having that relationship, or having that satisfaction of having a vocation that you enjoy doing. For everybody's different. We're all on our respective journeys. Well, what is that? And a lot of people are in a setup of being in probably a marriage that they've been in, but they're not happy. They don't want to do anything about it. It's like, what are you going to do about that? How are you going to change? What are you going to do about that? And people are like, I don't know. Great.
Yeah, it's a good start, I guess.
Great. Yeah. And then that's it. It's like, are you willing to do something about that? A lot of people are not willing. They don't want to do anything about that. It's very stubborn. Like I said, it's complex, because you're talking. In most cases, you're talking with people who just come and they've got a set of beliefs of how it is. This is how it is. This is my experience. This is how it is. And blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, well, so, so what? And
Yeah.
it's like they get angry. What do you mean, so what? That's the way it is. It's like, that's not the way it is. It might be a
Yeah.
reality of that, but it's not just the way it is. There's
Yeah.
all of this, all of this. And
A phrase I came across recently was, one of the sure signs that you're coming from fear is that you're in binary thinking. It's either this or it's that. And I've started to notice that in a lot of places, but that seems to be what you're touching on at the moment too. They come in, they go, "This is the way it is," and they want you to agree with that. And then you go, "Well, it's not." Now, but it's either, like that's
yeah,
that. And I've been that. Of course, I've been in that exact same space. The person you're speaking about, I have been that person many times.
yeah,
You know, it's probably built into trying to avoid that. And if I catch myself, I get rather ashamed of it nowadays. But as a younger person, you get very easily caught up into, this is the way things are, this is the way it's work. That very idealistic sort of thing, but at the same time, a very powerless sense of, and a real desire for someone to just come in and save you from the way it is, right? I think that's
yeah.
just somebody with a magic fucking wand just come in and sort this shit out for me, and then you know, um,
Fix it for me.
yeah, but even not believing that they can, just
Yeah,
kind of, I know that's part of my experience, was just not understanding, and this is why we talked about it earlier. You mentioned knowing yourself, but you also mentioned what would you love, which I love that word over. It's not what do you want, what do you love, because I found that to be a bit of a doorway out of things. Like it took me a long time to be able to. You and I went through training where we have some experiences where you're setting a perfect example to be able to just actually say that,
Mm.
which sounds probably a big breakthrough. Just the experience to go. It's the first time I've ever admitted ever something so simple,
Mm.
but not how to get to that space, because I think that there's quotes like from Mark Twain and stuff. Quotes about I can help any man get what he wants. Just find me one that can tell me what that is. Right? It's
Yeah, yeah. It's great,
um,
isn't it? It just gets things boiling, bubbling. We want that. Want that. But a lot of people, I find this is be a truth. Just the foundation of a lot of people is the pain and the excruciating wound is the belief that they cannot have it.
mm-hmm.
Just if we just sit and just really, I can't have what I love. It's like you just can feel that poor crushed child, and a lot of people walking in this garment of fear and pain and just not being able to have, or denying that there's some force out there that's said no to them, whether it's God, their
Yeah,
parents, um, and having that experience over and over, of, oh, I can't have it, I can't have it, I can't have
yeah.
my
There's
love.
constant reinforcement of that. You say God, your parents, whatever. Okay, it's school, it's the media, it's the news, it's the way someone responded to you when you're walking down the street. Someone kicked over your castle when you were building a sandcastle. It's the one I'd get a lot. Kicking your sandcastles over as a kid. But it's funny how it's very much a human condition to get caught in that place of
Mm,
um,
yeah.
self-restriction of what not being able to admit it. I mean, even while you were talking, even putting myself in that place of being a little kid, of being asked, "What do you want?" Being, well, I can't. What would you love to have? And it's like, well, I can't have what I want. So
Mm,
there's the fear of the the fear of the pain of not getting it.
mm,
So why admit it in the first place? Because then I can just sit here and not experience that pain. Like it's the pain of not getting what you want is sharp, and the pain of just not admitting it in the first place is more of a dull thing that's tolerable. That's sort of something I picked up on. That's why you're talking, just putting myself in that space of a little kid. It's like, it's funny. Even my son, when he was a little absolute baby, you ask him, not baby, probably as soon as he went to school, you start asking what he wanted, he couldn't answer it.
mm.
It's I found it amazing when he was a really little baby. Blue cup or orange cup? Yeah, orange. And probably within 3 days of being at school, he's doing eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Right? I found that quite striking. You've gone from being able to just pick to you've got to do this process of eeny, meeny, miny, mo to get. It's interesting to see that
That's
unfold.
an
But,
interesting nursery rhyme, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, look, it also works sometimes. I think it does. Like, um,
Mm,
yeah, but just picking. I know. Was it Tony Robbins talks about decisions? I remember him talking about it when I was young.
mm.
Decisions, and he gets in the whole. The Latin root of it means to cut off. So when you've made a decision, and I'm still sitting there for years, just going, "The fuck does that? What do you mean? Just choose?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, what do I do?
Right, and I get that.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yes.
like what? If you ask me to get up and walk over to that door, I can do that. I can get up but when you say choose, it's this ephemeral, abstract concept that I'm like, well,
Yeah, you
what
choose it,
there's no action in it,
and
right?
then what? It's just it takes steps. It's action. It's actioning things. It's like if you want to make, say you want to make a really nice carrot cake. There's ingredients and there's an art to that.
Yep.
And if we look at what we love from that point of ingredients and the knowing aspect, the vital ingredient is you. You're the yeast. people don't people don't have that connection with themselves. It's like, oh, but what people have is a set of well, I'm not allowed to. That goes against my beliefs. I hear this a lot from people. Well, it's not what I believe. So basically, it's like you've got these set of rules that you have that uh, that you deny yourself any pleasure or anything of being in the world, that exploration or that first. It's so rigid. It's so rigid, and a lot of people aren't happy. They don't have. They think, oh well, I'm going to be like a Kardashian. Well, I've got to have a fucking pink Porsche. Well, I'm going to have a house in Calabasas, and that's it. Then I'm successful. It's like these people aren't fucking happy. You've
Yep.
had 4 partners that have cheated on them. Look at
Yep.
patterns. Learn your pattern. Why are you creating that? Ask the questions. It takes a certain amount of I'm ready to let go of that. You've got to be ready just to let go. People just want attachments, and we're not that. Attachment is very debilitating. Um, it's like a disease. Like I say, it's like a disease, and a lot of us are diseased when we get caught up in our wounding and our beliefs, which are not even ours. They're just inherited or given, or what. Oh well, that's not the way the world is. That's what TV says, or that's what this book said, or that's what this person said. It's like fuck that. What do you say? What's your oracle? What's your manifesto? What's your gospel? It's like, what are you, chopped liver? It's like,
Yeah.
well, are you different? Are you unlike Christ? It's like, you're a great creating
Yep.
being. You're allowed to enjoy and have pleasure and things that are outside this bullshit system that it's a box. Like, nature's not in a box.
No.
Just as I said, people get bogged down in the system. It's just like get up, go brush your teeth, take a shit. Oh, meet that person for coffee. Oh, and the week's gone, the month's gone, and it's like, oh, I've got this happening, or this one. My daughter had a stroke, and then my life. It's like, yes, it's life, but what are you going to do about that? It's
Interesting.
circumstances. Like, life is fucking cruel. Yes, it's unfair. Look at what's going on. It's like this. It's a stage and it's a circus. And yes, but you can't just forfeit your soul, and we don't have a lot of
I
time
did.
now, Bevan. Because I'm like hitting
Yeah.
55, and I think you might be lucky. You don't know. Might like 20, 30 years. Our
Yeah.
bodies deteriorate. We're going to go into the ground. We're going to die. It's death.
Yeah.
Milk it, milk life, make the most of it. Yes, not so great, unsavory things happen in life. Sometimes you might have a horrible oyster. We don't let that spoil. We just spoil everything. We really contaminate and pollute. We're the prime kind of denominator for that. And we don't want to look at it. We don't want to look at it. And that's where a lot of pain just keeps perpetuating, is with the inability to look at something. It's like,
Yeah.
look at yourself. A lot of
See,
people don't
well,
even love themselves or look at them. So you have to love yourself. It's a big commandment. You're you. This here. It's love. And then when you can love others, and you can have joy, and you can get the most out of life when you're coming from a place of soul and integrity. And it's not even complex. It's simple, and we don't know how to keep things simple. We can't appreciate. We can't be thankful for the little things. Not enough. And that a lot of people have that belief. Not enough. I'm not enough. It is not enough. And you look at the
it's
people
fucking
that
scary,
not
Bahar.
enough, but having 70 Rolls Royces in their garage is, then we get to see what do you call it? We get to see the insanity of it all.
But it is scary, right? I just said that. Even if you put yourself in the state of somebody who's in a relationship they don't want to get out of, right?
Yeah.
It's so scary to get out of that. I guess my structure was, I was living down in Sydney. I was earning a lot of money per year, right? Doing pretty well. I had all sorts of friends, so I had all those structures. I had the particular career I was working on, the particular skill set that I had. It was earning me money. I was living in a place that I felt comfortable in. I liked living there because it was a bit of a status thing. It wasn't a low class area, but it wasn't a really perfectly suited for me. It's like right in the middle of it. It's not too hoity toity and it's not crappy. Nice and comfortable. I've got friends there. But even I had trouble admitting that I wasn't happy, right? Until I just get the pain got so bad that I didn't have a choice. And I threw all that away to move in with my parents' place where I'm at now, right? And the whole time I've been here, I've been saying I've never been happier in my life, and it's so you can tell those stories. It was because I remember as that was starting to come together. I remember going across the road to the service station and seeing the people working the service station, and thinking to myself, what if I had this? What if everything went to shit and I had to get a job in a service station? I remember going, ugh, like, what would people think? What about, I'm single. I want to meet a woman. What the hell woman am I going to meet if I'm working in a part time in the service station sort of thing? Um, and I remember I remember thinking like 12 months before this happened that's not something I could tolerate. I don't like that. Until eventually things got so goddamn hard. I've thrown all that away and I've kind of moved in with my parents' place. I'm flipping things on eBay, which is not at all a job. It's not a classy thing at all, but I'm so happy doing it. I'm doing part-time work, doing trivia hosting at a pub to meet ends meet, and found these little bits of part-time work. And it's before also I need to have this job because it pays the bills and it's a respectable job.
Yeah.
And the alternative is a job that doesn't pay as much and is not respectable. I don't want to accept that. And I spent so many years chasing this dragon of this is what I got to have. This is what I got to do. And 20 years of wasted time, I guess, in a sense. Like, I learned a lot. I picked up skills. You bring stuff out of that with you. But
Yeah.
it's really interesting to get to that point where I
Mm.
think my point is looking back in hindsight, right? Because at the time I was working with Ian, your husband, as my coach, um, and sort of it was there. It was there just to be able to easier to see it. Like that, the answer was stop doing this job. It was probably there for years before the pain got so hard. It's like my own natural ability said, I'm taking matters in my own hands. I'm going to give you a mental breakdown and send you back to your parents' place just to wake you up. You don't need this goddamn job, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You say call it mental breakdown or a spiritual awakening. Which one do you want to call it, right? I heard Brené Brown use that. I thought it was fantastic, right? Because
It
I
is.
came right out the other side,
It is
like
fantastic.
very short. It was I'm done. Everything's over. Some of my poor friends got a bit got some crap when I was done. I was not well, and but moved up here, and that speed's been on and up. This podcast happens. I'm building a business of my own. I'm working for myself. I'm happy, right?
Yeah.
Which is and creating something for the first time instead of creating something for somebody else. And well, I was thinking about it this morning when we are getting ready for this, remembering back to Ian and sort of talking about that freedom because I've been working on a project of my own for a few weeks and being able to put that time into it and work on it and just get it done. There's no boss coming in and saying, no, don't do it that way, do it this way, or you've had enough time on that, pulling you off it, or being exhausted after work and not having, and just that. It's funny, all these things that I'd wanted to do for years that I just couldn't even see why I couldn't do them and go, it was just such an interesting thing to look on in hindsight, right? So that's I can understand why it's so hard for people to see these things because even when I was working to see that for years, I was still blinded to the fact that the structures I was holding on just seemed so appropriate that it wasn't until they ripped away. I'm like, what the? They weren't serving me at all. That's
Yeah. Yeah. Because we're learning. We're here to learn. We're here to undo things. That's what your true nature and purpose. You don't know about what is that for you? Yeah, I moved back in with mum. I'm really happy. And I'm tired as fuck.
Yeah.
I'm on this journey. My life's been turned upside down. It's hasn't been, but it's. I'm learning about aspects of myself because I'm a person. I won't ask. I won't ask for help. That's the most horrible, shameful thing that you could do is ask for help. To ask for money. I would rather starve than to. There's things that we're here to shed. Mother Earth is about that. Knowing yourself. Know yourself. It's the tenant. It's the undo. It's the key for everything. Everything. It's just know
Yeah.
yourself. Don't know him or just even Christ said that. Don't know thyself. Man, know thyself. It's the most liberating, beautiful thing. And it's not about anybody else and comparing and well, I don't have that or I don't have a car or blah blah blah. Because we're told, we're fed that every day to be able to be a human being. This is what you've got to have, and everything else is ignored. But it's bullshit because you find the joy when you're living your true nature and purpose. But your true nature and purpose is unique to you. Nobody knows that. Nobody knows that better than you. Nobody knows how to make and craft their life better than you. And when you start that first step into saying, well, I want something beautiful for myself. That's it. That just takes one step, and then everything. We're looking at expansion here. It's like how ways of expanding and being more free, not just the word free. People get that, But what is that? What is that really? Get to know that. Shapeshift into that. Go into aspects of the forest, the kingdom within you, and explore. And you will just find so much joy in the simplicity that you see a lot of people they're just not in that, and it's sad. It saddens me to see that. It saddens me to see that with people that I know. Why that big part of their life is not addressed. It's not looked at. Okay, you've got to look at something. You've got to look at it. You've got to be active in that. You're the active ingredient. You've got to involve yourself in that, no matter what that is. You got to do you. When they say do you, it's like do you. Yeah, and it's just
Yeah.
simple. It's just keep it simple. Don't compare yourself to people. Just start off. Just start off. Just start, and the rest will follow. You don't have to see. You can imagine it. You don't have to have it all worked out. It just works itself out in its funny way. It does. And yeah, that's another thing that people have. It's like, oh, they get just scared because they can't see it all. It's like, who cares? You don't know about tomorrow. Just be in today. Tomorrow will solve itself. It will arrange itself for you in its way that it does, which is, a lot of people can't see that. They can't imagine that for themselves. And it's like, oh, well, there's this great vast universe and galaxies and this force, this beautiful beauty of life, this atom that makes everything just, live. It's like you've got to be in the land of the living. And yeah. And that involves a lot of letting go. And people can say, oh, well, I'm letting go, but are you really letting go? Really letting go. Have
It's,
nothing.
that's
When you have
that
nothing,
letting go question.
yeah, we just think it's something material. We think it's something that we have to attach to something or have an example of something and say, oh, well, look, I've done that. But it's not real. And people accumulate. We're just accumulation, we're hoarders. hoarders with our beliefs, our emotions, our thoughts, and everything else we hoard, and then it just becomes too heavy. It's like, don't be anything. We hear that in a lot of ancient texts. It's like, just be nothing, nothing. Be nothing. Don't have anything. So what if you don't? Does that make you any less? No.
Yeah, well, I think that's sort of the fear of mine. I was talking about being in the service station and noticing that fear. That's not something I could accept. Which, funny enough, now, right? If I got the situation where I needed the money, I'd quite happily go work in a service station. Like, things have changed. I guess the transformation happened. But I know that I can sense that deep fear of everything falling apart and end up on the street. I was terribly scared of that just when I was a kid. Right? What happens if I grow up and I end up homeless? Because you see these people who are homeless.
Mm,
How did they get there? Right? But like, what if that happens to me? I don't know how they got there. There's just some people do and some people don't. And and that was probably something that drove me a lot, was the resistance to that. I just need
mm,
to make sure I've got a job that makes enough money to be sure that I'm not living on the street, right? And then
yeah.
I've made all right money, but I still lived in this world of I've got enough to not be on the street.
Mm,
Um, and it's a really hard thing to suddenly be when you there's when you start thinking about what it is you'd really love. There's a part of yourself, or at least for me, there's a part that comes up and says, "But the risk is too great,"
mm,
right? And I mean, I've just told a story where there's got to a point where I've taken some risks and gone, I've moved in with my parents at 47. And the story I tell myself is it's the greatest success I've ever had. I should have done that ages ago, right? But it's also, but something I was so unwilling to. The ego didn't want it. There was so much shame around that, and then taking those risks, like going for what you love, like so busy shoring things up. Like you said, we're hoarding stuff. Um, hoarding the security and hoarding the insurance and the saving for a rainy day, and the entire time you're not going after what you truly love. But I know as soon as I can sense it, there's that big fear that comes up. But if I go for what I love, I could lose everything, right? And that's a
yeah.
very hard thing to get past. I can understand why people are stuck in in bullshit, horrible, course, because that's what stops us. I guess that's the point. That's what stops us being able to admit what we love, right? Because even if we admit it, then we might have to go for it, and if we go for it, we might lose everything, right? And that's
Yeah, exactly. And then you do. And what happens to people that lose it? You know?
well, yeah, exactly.
And so, and it's stupid because, like I said, everybody's on a journey. It's their journey. I can't. My husband's journey is my husband's journey. My journey is my
Is that
journey.
it?
Your journey is your journey. But the thing is, having flow in your life, flow is such a magical thing. Is you have
I want to.
the ability to move through life, but you don't have savings, you don't have accumulated wealth, and then I know people that've got shitloads of money. They have shit loads of money.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, they just have so many problems. They're so
Yeah.
like, look at what you got, dude.
Yeah.
And they're just holding on. And you'll see this with a lot of people that got money. They won't give it away. I've asked people for money who've got money, and it's like they get all uncomfortable. And I'm just, like I said, it's all a learning experience for me because I'm now asking. It's like, well, this is a situation. Can I, and then I can pay it back or whatever I'm asking for. Is this that now I can really ask and not feel fucking like an ogre or like, you know, less than, to be able to ask for what I want, you know. But then you get to really learn the art of asking. Some people call that prayer. Some people call that giving it up to a higher force or your higher self. But like I said, it's just flow. You're going to get into the flow. We hear that a lot, and flow is like, if we look at it, 80% of Australians now live paycheck to paycheck. I've lived like
Hmm.
that most of my life. Yes, I've worked and I've put money aside. My husband's put money aside, but things happen. You're going to get your teeth fixed and it costs you like a mortgage, or your car breaks down. Things happen. It's like, so what? It's like your ability to then, you know, call upon and ask this magic or energy, whatever's in you, is to start being a magician in the world, being an alchemist, being the ingredient that um, gets that happening. You're the person that gets things happening. It's like, okay. And then be content, be peaceful, be able to have a laugh. I look at what my husband's gone through in the last few months of what they gave him a diagnosis. They basically told me to start planning his funeral. He's not going to be able to eat. He's not going to be able to speak. He's basically going to be a bit dirty. Um,
Mm-hmm.
let's do this and let's put some holes in his stomach and let's get let's tubes and and he's let's just I said, no, you just leave it. And we just left it. And it because it's his journey, you see. I mean, it's not what other people say, it's what he wants. It's his life. And you know what? None of what these professional, I mean, doctors and freaking, whatever they said, none of none of that happened. None of that happened, and he proved that wrong. Not in just like in months, in just a matter of days, things just started moving. It's like, okay, I've got to move with this. I've got to move with this, but I can't afford to lose myself in this. Yes, it's hard. It's
Yeah.
challenging. It's not I have it worked out. Like I said, it's you're learning all the time. You're learning. It's like, yes, I'm learning, but also have to be a part of life. There's um, things that I must do to be of service to other people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my true nature. What am I exceptionally well at is just talking and getting people out of ruts. But how do you do that? You've got to get into ruts yourself. You're going to have walked that road to be able to be a connoisseur of fucking
Yeah.
pain, queen of pain. Yes, I am. And so it's great. We learn from that. Our pain body, our experiences, what other people we love go through, our exchange, whatever it is just you can turn things around and have flow in your life. And, it's tragic like it is, and
Yeah.
also be an ambassador for this world in goodwill and brotherhood and unity and standing up
Yeah.
and protesting and doing all those things people say you can't do. You're anti-Semitic, or no, you know uh, you're that's not very godly, or that's not very Christian, or that's not very, well, who cares, is it your true nature and purpose? Do you love it? Does it
Yeah.
actually have flow, and does it liberate others as well? Yes. It's just,
See, that is the magic question, isn't it? Though, does it give you flow? Is it right? Because um, yeah, that's a lot of things we do because
mm,
we're the resistance, not because we love it. Yeah, and that's not to mean that you need to let everything unfold and flow. There might be sometimes you need to take a stand for something, but you need to do that with integrity of the fact that it is what you'd really love to do. It is in alignment with who you are, not in alignment with your myth about how you think things are, or how you think they should be.
yeah.
I think it's a very interesting thing. I love your energy that's coming in here because I was talking to you just now. Like I was feeling a bit off, and then you start talking, and when you start talking about that being connected to the world, I'm just sitting here filling up with joy as you say it. I'm like, this is great. Like I'm loving talking about this stuff. So I'm loving hearing that from you because that's your.
I'm all about joy. As
We just came on the end of you talking about and the
it's
pain and stuff.
true.
But I know you've been
It's
through.
true.
You said a few months ago it's probably coming on 12 months or something since my were to say about Ian.
Yep. Sure.
Yeah, so
Yes.
Ian had a stroke, a massive stroke,
Yeah.
which obviously happened all of a sudden. I remember texting, like I texted him, I didn't hear from him, and you replied back on his message that he's had a massive stroke, and I'm like, whoa, right, this is someone I tried to reach out to for support, and now they're not available, right? as unavailable as you can get, really. And so you've been going through that for a year, but you're coming in with all this joy. You're obviously there's a lot of conflict and challenge in there that you're clearly learning from, but then it's this is there's an interesting. See, we were talking before about stories and about admitting to what you love and being willing to go for it, but there seems to be this other truth of the side that life is hard. There's things shit does happen, right? I think is that a would you agree? Is really the question.
Yeah, but
Like, is that a natural fact of like because we talk about magic and flow and
yeah.
and we're sitting here, you get in the flow and it's wonderful and it's magic and I agree and I love it and I've been in that space, but there seems to be this overhanging truth also that and that same in nature, this underhanging truth that life can be really hard too. So as beautiful as it is.
Yeah, pain is a part of life.
Hmm.
It's pain, and you can't avoid it. It's childish to want to avoid the pains of life
Yeah.
because our understanding our relationship with pain is really we thought everything's bad. That's it. It's bad or good or evil. There's a right way and there's a wrong way. And we're just coming back to that is our reaction, response to these beliefs or these words, this system that we're in that divorces us from the truth. And what is the truth? What is your more profoundly beautiful is what is your truth? What is that? Yes, it fucking hurts. Life hurts. It does.
Yeah.
You've gotta allow all of that. But it doesn't mean that you're powerless. That you're gonna be let life crush you. Let love crush you. It's an integral part of your evolution is to allow whatever you must go through to. And then, you can respond to that from a greater light, from a greater energy, from a greater part of yourself, which a lot of people don't even know exists because they never go there. You have to go there. You have to taste the fruit. Otherwise, having eaten an apple, I can't tell you about. I can describe it to you, but if it's a magic apple and you haven't eaten it, well, you're not. Yeah, it's like, would you love that for yourself? And it's like, just say yes. A lot of people find it really hard to say yes. And I have a lot of sessions with people that are just so stagnant, and the fear and the pain of not being able to say yes and respond to that in a favorable way and just go, oh, and the weight that lifts off when you say that. What would you love? What would you love? Would you love a sexy hot guy that you're gonna have a lot of revenge? Yeah, why don't you can have a choice around that,
Admit it.
Yeah.
I think that's if that's what you want, say so. Like
You want
that's
some money?
yeah.
Ask for it. Just get yourself out there and just, yeah. It's just so you're doing yourself and the world a really great disservice when you just hold on to things and you don't say yes to that which is gonna it's not even it's what you'd love. It's just what you love for yourself. A nice home, and the thing is it's in the unknown. You don't know what you have a feeling of what that is. But the things you don't know how that's going to come about. And that's the greatness of it all. We just want to know how that's going to be, how. And we rack our nervous system with that. And then we get bogged down. And my husband was a great example of that. He went through a series of really great heartaches in his life and lost the people closest to him. And he made that about him. And he went into this spiral of real depression. And he went to the doctors and he had tests done. And oh, you know what? You're as strong as an ox. For a person that smokes, your lungs are pretty fucking awesome, you know. And then this happens. This happens because you know what? No matter what we learn, no matter what we go through, if we don't transmute that, if we don't use that and utilize that, if we just hold on to it and just become, buried in our work, buried in service, and we negate ourselves, something's going to pop. There's consequences. There's a corresponding force that comes in and says, wake up, and that's the thing. There's consequences to everything you do. You want great consequences, then you've got to move in your greatness. If you don't, like if you want to just have a mundane life, that's great, but there's consequences to that. And that's disease. I'm not telling people to stop what they're doing. You can keep your beliefs, but if you want total change, if you truly want that, if you want transformation, if you're ready to let go and leave, you're gonna have to say, you're gonna have to gamble it all. And are you willing to risk that? Well, you've said a yes, and that's it. The door's that's it. It just starts from that. It just starts from one thing. It's just a tiny little thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that there's this real paradox that I'm sensing between this massive dream, massive action, giving it all away, let going of everything. That starts with this tiny little step. Heard that story of man going to the gym. Right, so he goes to the gym and he works out for the first time, and he comes home, looks in the mirror, and it's like nothing happened. Goes to the gym the next day, comes out, looks in the mirror, and nothing happened. Goes to the gym the next day, comes out, looks in the mirror, keeps going to the gym. It's like a couple of months later, what happened? Like like there's this sense of massive change, small steps. It's like there's this paradox of it takes the massive effort takes a lot of effort, but it all starts with that one little bit, which seems to be what you're talking about. Like this is getting in. If you want to know start with that. If you want to learn how to know what it is you love, ask that question.
Yeah.
And
then the synchronicities happen, and then doors open, and you have what people call weird stuff happen to them, crazy stuff happen to them. But it's good because you're sent to be able to discern and decipher what's of elevation, of what is of wonderment, then that starts to happen. You're like, yeah, that's then you're in life. You're in the energy of saying yes to yourself and going, oh, okay, life is responding. I've said hello, life, and it's like, hey, g'day. We come back to that place, and it's like, hi, how you doing? What's happening for you? Oh, or it's like, yeah.
Speaking of putting things out there and asking for things,
yeah,
I'll try and put a description of your GoFundMe in here, because you've been needing some support since Ian had that stroke a while ago. You guys have turned your life upside down, I imagine.
Yeah.
It was a big source of the income for you guys.
Yeah.
So if anyone's listening and you want to help out, I'll put the GoFundMe down in the description for sure.
Yeah.
I've sent a bit through, but I'll do what I can.
It's just little bit things that do great works, therapies and devices for him, and supplements, and it's just, and I've taken, it's just like community. It takes a village. It's whatever happens, that you can ask upon, you can call upon these wonderful people in your life who would just say yes. And, it's what it's all about. It's nothing shame or horrible to ask for. And, and it's great. If you need a GoFundMe or whatever, just ask. If you need money, just ask people. I need help.
Opportunities there.
Yes.
I mean, what we go 20 years ago, things like GoFund, or maybe a bit more than that, but they didn't exist. What did you do? You went out on the street with a cup in your hands or something, that was but now you've just got services at your fingertips in your phone where you can just set these things, you can go and ask.
Yeah, dust yourself off
um
and try again, ask again, and
yeah,
you can always build. You can always create. You're always creating as long as you've got that flow going. And you allow that, and you have a greater foundation, and you put greater definitions on things rather than the shit definition. Your life is going to change, and it does. And
such a
and you're holding yourself. You got patience, and all of that comes in, and it's not a Rumi. I always go back to Rumi's poem or his verses of the guest house, and I just recommend people really read it. It's like just make that time to read that and realize how potent that is in relation to your life and navigating your way through it, because you've got to go through it, um, and do that. It's messy, yes, but it's also bloody beautiful and yummy and fun too. You can cry. I find myself crying a lot of the time, and cry, go scream,
yeah,
go punch, go to the gym and go do it's just allow it all, and
yep,
move through it from a greater aspect of yourself, a greater archetype or archetypes of yourself, because you are everything. You're connected to everything through all time and space, and remember that we're here to remind ourselves of that, and
so
yeah,
interesting. You make me think, because I've been watching a lot of Gary V. He's
yeah,
Gary Vaynerchuk. He's an entrepreneur. Every time you see him, he's on fire. He's got energy. He's upbeat. He's happy. Every single damn time you see him. And then there's this idea of you don't need to be a particular way to create, right? That's not
mm,
like you look at Gary V and you go, well, that's what I got to be. But you also don't. I think there's a lot you can take from him. He's got a lot to teach.
mm,
That even just before coming into this podcast today, I was like, I had my head in something else. There's people running around the house. I was a bit shooken up. I was a bit abstract, and I was reminded of you don't need to feel good to create, right? Which was, and then being able to just go, well, almost it's given me that freedom to go, well, I don't feel good. So, okay, cool. Because I remember that was when I was younger, that was just, if you had a meeting, going there, oh, but oh no, I don't feel very good. I'm tired, or I'm anxious, or I'm this, or I'm that. It's like, I'm not on fire. How am I supposed to be present? And that understanding of you don't need to feel good to create allowed me to go into a space now where it's like, okay, fine, I don't feel good, but I can still create this podcast.
mm,
And so I came in there, and to be honest, ever since I've sat down at this camera and got doing it, that feeling's gone. Right, really. But I think if I had resisted it and gone, I need to feel good, I might have cancelled. I might have put it off.
mm,
I might have overthought it. I probably would have brought it in here with me, and like that's. But just being able to allow it to go. I think there is an aspect of shit happens. Sometimes you don't feel good. The pain,
mm.
things aren't. You don't feel fantastic all the time. That's just go and create anyway, right? I think that's because that's touching on that. This podcast being very much about challenging conventional wisdom. There is a conventional wisdom that you need to feel good. If you want to create something, you've got to. I see it so much on posts about you need to in order to create, you need to put your mind at peace, and it's like but that's some of the greatest stuff I've created. I've created in the midst of freaking turmoil and like that's
Yeah, there's always
conflict is.
yeah. That's a big
um,
yeah. When people go, oh well, I've got to have this or I've got to be there in order to then.
yeah,
It's
yeah, and so you see those, and then you see Gary Vaynerchuk, he's always on fire and he's always up, and you go, well, I've got to be that, and you go, I fucking don't have that, right? That's yeah, I can be that sometimes,
you just take
but
it and
like
make
what were
it your own. You have to make it your own. His does himself. That's
Yeah.
and great because that's him. And it works for him. And then you have a
Yeah.
way that's uniquely yours, the way you speak and the way you orate and the way you ornate, and it's
Ornate.
your show. You know, you grab
Yeah.
you grab all these wonderful sages and gurus and prophets and books and you know what do we call those? Those help me out here, Bevan. Those what I
All the stages and the books and
say.
the teachers, all the
Yes, everything. You realise, okay, I have that. What am I going to do? What am I going to create from that in my own way? You have to put your imprint on. That's your wild. You've got to imprint. You've got your own way to do that, and I have my way to do that. And ground level in the community, that's where I like to really crawl and fly is amongst people. And yeah, you know, you just make it your own. The structure's there. You've got all the knowledge and the wisdom, your higher wisdom. Is like you have a way to now bring that story or those myths and create new out of that. And that's probably the best takeaway is that you could do it your own way. Yeah, and just start. And it just takes one spark. You know that's it.
Yep.
And, yeah.
Just think it's the big takeaway. Start asking yourself,
Yeah.
what is it you'd love? Be willing to explore that,
Mm,
know yourself, and just start.
yeah.
Just
Yeah.
just, just start. Just start. Be you. Just start. I love that.
Yeah. And just begin. It's just always beginnings and endings. It never stops. Never stops. And just unplug. Unplug from whatever and don't put energy into that. It's like plug into your own greater self. It's time to do that more and more. More and
Yeah.
more. Because we're coming to this world and we're gonna go out. It's how are you gonna go out? With regret or holding on because I work in palliative care too, so I see
Yeah. Right.
a death all the time. So it's make the most of it.
So,
Yeah, because you can
yeah.
and you will.
You can.
Yeah.
All right. I think that brings us to a nice close. We can wrap it
Yes.
up.
Thank you. And
Thank
it's
you
crazy,
for. Thank you.
insane, life that we live and with all its ups and downs is to make time and show up and have these conversations, have these connections, and um, yeah, it's just you don't have to have a script for it. Just.
No, well, that's what you and I tried something different today.
Yeah,
Very
just
less,
to catch up.
very less prepared.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
been great.
And if anything, I enjoyed it. If people are listening, I hope you got something out of this. I loved connecting with Bahar. It was fun.
Yeah,
Nice
I've
to-
always loved connecting
yeah,
with you and giving you shit.
yeah, yeah.
That's what we do.
You held back today.
Love
Yeah,
the phone and the thing is, we just have this love for each other and the people that we know is just because we see each other, we know each other, we aren't hiding stuff, are we? We're just being real. It's just like be real with life. Yeah. Yeah, it's been great. It's been great to just show
yeah,
up and talk. And it's like, you
yeah.
know, whatever.
Yeah, well, I'd like to get because I don't think you and I have talked that deeply before. Like we've talked about stuff, but this was really good to. I like to get in there and ask you some questions and go.
Yeah,
I
I
enjoyed
feel
that. Being
that.
able to put some questions in there and go
Well,
play devil's advocate a little bit, not to challenge you, just because.
it's
What
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 I'm about.
what do you
What I
think?
do in my
What do you think?
mentoring. I'm really just about the wild and you know, there's more to you than you would ever know. You get to know yourself.
Yeah,
It's the best. It's the best. You're your own
get to
best
know
friend.
yourself. It's the fucking best.
Yeah. Yeah, you know.
You're the fucking best. That's our takeaway. You're the fucking best. Go out and
You're
know yourself. There's so much to
better
know.
saying about that. Simply the
Go
best.
wild.
Okay. Go wild, yeah, exactly. And just ask people, connect with people. There's people like you and
Right?
me, and there's thousands and thousands of people doing their own thing out there. The Garys, the Tony Robbins, the William Whiteclouds,
Yeah.
the Bevan Wishett's and Bahar McIntyres. We all have this wisdom that we can assist others in getting to know themselves and going, yeah, well, wow, why didn't I start this sooner?
And you don't need to know how. I mean, I don't know how.
No, that's it. No fixing. You
But
don't need to know, and then you truly know.
yeah, it is really interesting. Just I guess, to pull out a few times this year, I've had a few people use the word inspired.
Mm.
You inspired me to do this. You inspired me to do that. You inspired me to do this other thing.
Mm.
Right? Which is probably a goal. That's something I love, that kind of validation. It's like,
Mm.
but like I didn't. I still, if you ask me, am I the kind of person that? How do you inspire people? I don't know. I just started. It was that just being myself thing a little bit, and it's like I'm making content online, and I think it sucks. Right? And some other people have told me it sucks, but then other people have said they were inspired by it,
Yeah.
and to do the same thing. So it's like, kind of, which story are you going to tell, right? Which,
So what? It's like, so what?
yeah,
You're not here to make
yeah,
anybody happy or to please, or it's
no.
just, yeah, and it's okay. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter. And the thing is, it doesn't fucking matter. So, big deal.
All right.
Okay.
I'm going to end it there. Let's end it with go wild. Doesn't
Go
fucking
wild
matter.
and everything. Just do it.
All right.
Do it
All right. I'm
now.
going to
Thanks, Bevan.
do it now. You're welcome.
We'll catch
Thank you
up
for
soon,
coming.
hey?